Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Dearest Mother, Love Ruthie. Ruth Smallshaw Ray's Letters to Her Mother, 1950, Part 51. This is the first part, based on the first part of the original publication, Smallshaw Family Memories Collection, or SFMC, number 30, published on November 3rd, 1998. Letter from the editor of the SFMC, yours truly, Peter J. Ray. Hi, everybody, and what an exciting issue this is, as you will soon find out. So much going on in the summer of 1950. The fateful car accident's legacy continued. What was amazing is that Ruth was able to forge ahead with her life after such a tragedy, and that is a mark of greatness, certainly, to be able to keep going when bad things happen. Recovering from the accident, then another operation, still teaching school, taking university classes, and planning a wedding in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Apparently the car accident was the shock Ruthie needed to realize that John Ray was a wonderful man, and that they would build a happy life together. Otherwise, Ruthie might have drifted on with her life, and John Ray might have faded out of the picture. So sometimes tragedy can bring good things. And certainly Ruth and John have had a fine marriage these past 48 years, and they have 4 successful children. Mark with his spirituality and wonderful wife Terry and Plastech Plus, their business which is now blooming. Pamela, who packed into 16 years as much as most people do in 70, and although we don't know the particulars, has definitely been busy since her departure, achieving, helping others, and growing more and more. Patricia, who has been an outstanding MD psychiatrist for many years now, and making the world a better place with her care, concern, and competence. And Peter, with his wife Alice, has been working with teenagers in the Philippines in their school for many years now also. So, good job, Ruth and John, Mom and Dad. The anticipation for August 1950 keeps growing to an almost unbearable level. Their wedding day. 100 thanks for everything you have done for us and also for the general community. You two are excellent examples of lives well lived. Keep up the good work and all the best. 2457 Kenilworth Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio, June 8, 1950. Watch out for the page numbers. They're mixed up because I didn't plan to write 16 pages. FRS. Dearest Mother, I finally finished just about the biggest obstacle race I've ever tried to run. The last I wrote, I guess, was just when I was going to begin. I probably mentioned all that had to be done. My conservation book that had notes to be typed, filed, and pictures arranged. My conservation report on the progress of our grasslands that I had to type. 45 book reports, 45 books to be read, reviewed, of 125 to 150 words, and typed. A 10-page report on creativity in young children, material to be written and typed, 30 copies of a program I wrote for physical education and for deaf children, plus study for my exams, for which I had about 4 books to read. Incidentally, getting through college isn't all smooth sailing. John was very encouraging. He helped read the books and compose the reviews. He did about 12 of the longest ones, when I didn't feel I could possibly manage it. I did work steadily from morning until late. My professors were very understanding when some things were a few days late. I got excellent for my conservation book and A for our book reports, but don't feel I did too well on my exams, but not too bad considering I only had a few hours to study for each. Oh yes, A for a report in another course, but we'll see how it all comes out. I had left work as usual, but that 10 days I wasn't functioning just made me 10 days behind. Well, I did finally make it, but not till I was pretty worn out. Now, my face. Right after I wrote, I had the bandages off. Well, I felt pretty bad at first. When John saw me, it was the first time he had not said that it was all right. I didn't think I'd go to John's fraternity formal that night, but I'd had my dress cleaned, and John brought me a corsage of 3 yellow roses for my hair, and I finally got up enough courage. We had a very nice time once I got used to it. Anne and Wayne Duff and her brother and his fiancée at the Atherton Hotel. It was so swell. From then on, I've been working. Well, I will have to have an operation on the bridge of my nose and one on my cheek. The cheek muscles were cut to the bone, and instead of growing together, the scar tissue has joined to the bone, so my cheek won't move. But he can fix it up. However, usually they wait for about 6 months to operate, but since the cheek is getting so much harder, and because of my mental health, the doctor says he'll operate in a couple of weeks if I want him to. So I think if it'll make me look better, I will have it soon. However, then there will be the possibility that I might have another one in the fall. When they do plastic surgery too soon, sometimes they don't get quite as good an effect. However, he says he'll do it soon or later as I decide. I have decided to have it soon, within a week or two, so that I'll look better for the wedding, and the doctor says it's okay too. I just phoned about the hospital and discovered that the rates are $29.50 a day in semi-private, and $25 a day for a bed in a 6-bed ward. It runs around $180 a week. I am certainly foolish not to have had hospitalization. John says it's no use worrying now, and as soon as we're married, I'll come under his plan at De Beckman. The other fellow in the car accident was found guilty. He had a previous record of about 15 offenses and has been in traffic court for another violation since the accident. He has been in prison for 40 months for armed robbery. They fined him $100, but so far there are no indications he has anything that we could sue for the damages. The lawyer is checking, though, both for the insurance company and John and I. It's a shame because this doctor bill will be tremendous, I'm afraid. Now, about our plans. We couldn't plan anything until I got over the exams and papers, nor until we knew of the doctor's decision. John had his holiday planned for the end of June, 1st of July, but we changed them till August so we could have some time to make plans. Then, too, I had to decide as to whether I'd have the operation sooner or later and whether I'd go to summer school. I had wanted to graduate in September, in which case I'd have to go both summer sessions. Since I signed my teaching contract at Superior School in East Cleveland a few weeks ago, and since it will not make any difference to my salary when I graduate, I've decided to go the first summer session beginning a week from Monday and take music, and maybe American history too, as music and social studies are all I need now. Then I can take a couple of courses in the fall and one next spring and graduate in June, the same time John will graduate from law school. Maybe you can come then for our graduations. It will probably be just as well that I have something to do next year besides just teaching after being so loaded, and then too John will be at school 4 nights a week next year. Financially, we should be okay as I'll be getting $2,925 a year, and John makes $4,800 a year, so we'll have over $600 a month. However, we don't plan on getting too lavish an apartment. Excuse me. Since we won't be home or entertain so much. And then, too, we will have to save as much as possible. Since the next year, John is going to try to start in a law firm, and his salary will be lower starting out. Then, too, I don't plan to teach more than a year or two right now either. I was really very disappointed. I explained to you that I'd be busy and couldn't write, And I heard from Bud, Marion, and Connie all mentioning the wedding, and I heard nothing from you. Finally, I got a letter in which you mentioned nothing about it, and only said you'd looked for a letter when you knew how busy I'd be. Well, John said it's easy to misunderstand, so I tried not to be too disappointed, but I did cry. And what did the poem about "a man is just a man without a house" mean? Maybe my sense of humor was low, or did you really mean we should start off with a house? We plan to buy as soon as we know where John is going to practice law, because rents are so high. He really is so nice, very sensible and really good, and I know you'll like him. He's the kind of person you like more as you go along. I am in love with him, and am certain it's the right thing. He says he'd like to have a ring, so it'll be a double ring ceremony, and when they have confirmation classes, he'll go, but won't decide about becoming an Episcopal until after he knows more about it. There's a chance he may not decide, but he does go to church with me now, and he has some good ideas. As I learned from the accident, you can only deal with problems as they come. Now maybe you didn't mention it because you'd think we shouldn't come home for the wedding. Bud seems to think it might be better to have it here, as does Dale, and quite a few tease us about going so far away. I know I don't have anyone at home but a few besides my family, and maybe it is foolish. So if you think it will be too much bother, or if you'd rather not, I wish you'd say so. We could have it here in Cleveland, and I'd have my operation later, but I thought I should try to look fairly okay to come home. I thought before the bandages were off that I'd like to wear a long dress and have Marion as matron of honor and Connie bridesmaid. Both have written they would. However, now that I know there'll be scars, a long white dress might look rather unbecoming, so I may settle for a suit, in which case I'd just have Marion, but we'll see. I'm glad Connie went to Saskatoon, and I hope she'll be happy. She got the red hat here, but changed the green ribbon later, she said, to white daisies. Dale and Dan are going to Florida for a holiday, then to Portland, Oregon. She had a job starting at $3,600. Dan does not have one, but is going to see what's cooking for architects in Portland. He graduates next Wednesday. They want us to buy their furniture and rent their apartment, but I think $1,500 is too much to pay for furniture you don't have the fun of picking out yourself. Ginny came back from her holidays last night. I was so glad she was away while I had to study and write papers. We are going to Oberlin tomorrow for Vince and Mary's wedding. We're coming back that night and going out again Sunday. No place to stay as there are so many parents and friends there over graduation. With Anne, Wayne, Joan, and Lenny, and going up to the lake for a picnic. John's mother talked to him over the phone last night. She said she was very happy we're getting married, that she's certain that I'm the right girl for John, and that we have all the elements to make a happy marriage. She also said that she wanted John to know that she thinks more of his father now, after 27 years of marriage, than she did when they were married. They are going to John's uncle, who is a doctor here, Ted Zook. They are going to spend part of August in his cabin in Georgian Bay in Canada, but we'll fly out for the wedding. She said Carol was just so excited over it all. She's just at that age, a real cute girl, pretty, clever, and a little spoiled, but nice. His mother said that they are giving us $500 as a wedding present that we can have now if we need it for the trip or whatever we wish. She also reminded John of some bonds at home, and he has about $1,500 of De Beckman stocks, but I don't think he should cash them in yet. I hate to think of how the operations will eat it all up. Now all this explanation is just so you don't worry, but it is confidential about the stocks. Incidentally, I knew John went to college on a scholarship, but I just found out that it is an Amos Miller scholarship, The only one at Oberlin that pays full tuition for 4 years college, so given for an outstanding scholar. I'm real proud of him anyway, but that was just something else. Now the date. I'd like Bud to be there, and John wants Wayne Duff. Bud mentioned 3 weeks holiday, but no date. You said he was leaving the 15th of July, so I gather he should be back to work by the 7th. Wayne Duff can have his holidays changed, but will have to be back, for he is in charge of a company picnic for 200 people on the 13th of August. He is trying to have the picnic date changed so we can be married August 12th, but if not, it'll probably have to be August 5th. Would you see if there are any weddings already scheduled at St. Peter's for either of those dates? I don't know, morning, afternoon, or evening. What do you think would be nicest? Or do you think some weekday would be better? What day? I thought maybe a Saturday. Daddy would be off work, and maybe someone could get away to bring Grandma and Grandpa up from Estevan if it were not too big a trip for them. If it would be, we might be able to go through Estevan to see them. So now I'm wondering if Bud would make it back by the 5th of August. I get through school July 28th, so the 12th would be better, unless Wayne cannot change the picnic. I'll let you know as soon as I know. Miss Bender had a job for me from June 19th to August 15th, working in a nursery, tutoring 5 deaf pupils, but of course I couldn't take it. Maybe next year. About the cake. When we were at Pat's at Christmas, we had a piece of Ethel's lovely white fruit cake. Do you think you could get the recipe and have it made, or do you think she might make it if I sent the money for the materials? I don't know whether to bother her or not. Now I don't want you to worry. If you think it would be too much trouble, tell us, and John and I could go over to St. Albans here next Saturday. It would be simpler. As it was, here we were knocking ourselves out, trying to figure out how we could drive out and back in 2 weeks, and maybe you don't even want us to. Dale and Dan said they'd go from Portland until they looked at the map. And do you have any suggestions about what I should wear? Now this is the big thing I want you to find out for us. Is there any waiting period? What about blood tests? How far in advance do you have to have them? Could we have them here? What all is needed? We just can't plan anything until we know how many days ahead of time John will have to be there so he can schedule his holidays. I have to go to the dentist. I need a new pair of glasses. My back went out again from typing and fatigue, I guess, and I've lost about 10 pounds. So John says I have to make appointments with the doctor, hospital, dentist, optometrist, and go to bed at 10 o'clock p.m. After this operation, I'll only have to wear bandages 1 week, and it should be fairly okay 3 weeks after. We'll see. Thanks for the paper with the university graduates. I'm glad Don Lane graduated, and I'm happy I came to Cleveland. Everything is right. I'm going to start looking for an apartment next week. Connie said you were worried about space. As soon as we set the date, you can reserve rooms at the Saskatchewan Hotel for Mr. and Mrs. Ray and Ann and Wayne Duff. So please do those 2 things for me. See if Bud will be back by the 5th and see what are all the law requirements, waiting period, birth certificate, blood tests, or if you'd rather us stay here. Incidentally, Miss Bender is going to South America, expenses paid, to tutor a deaf child for 6 weeks. Wonderful. Is that what you'd rather I were doing, dear? Right. Love, Ruthie. 2457 Kenilworth Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio. November 11th, 1949. Out of order, 7 months earlier. Dearest Mother, this is the 3rd time I've started this letter. I was supposed to keep it a secret until I decided, but now John thinks it might help me to make up my mind if I can talk to you. John wants to marry me in June. We can fly home, he says, and be married in Regina, or if I don't have to go home, any weekend here would do. I still have that funny habit of pushing it off into the future and thinking maybe next year would be better. However, next year is John's last year at law school, and he feels he would do better married to me than me just being his girlfriend, and that it would be something to work together for. He's very nice, and I'm not so afraid of the idea as I usually have been. And you know I've always been just sick at the idea of getting married and being unhappy like you were. John knows that and says he's positive he can make me happy. For the present, he wants me to plan on becoming his wife in June and try to get used to the idea. We're going to his home for Thanksgiving, which will be nice. I'd like to talk to Bud. He has such good ideas. I will write again. Love, Ruth. 2457 Kenilworth Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio, June 12th, 1950. Dear Mother, Daddy, and Bud, Hi, my family. I'm afraid my last letter was rather didactic, but there seemed so much I wanted to say, and I didn't want you to misunderstand anything. I'm looking for a letter within a couple of days and hoping that everything will be okay with you. I thought of Bud yesterday. Now he's 22. Remember, I spent my 22nd birthday arriving in Florida so long ago. I'm glad I went, but so much happier in Cleveland. I really feel that my life is beginning to be unified. Just this week, left at Bell, and then next Monday I begin summer school. Saturday morning I go to the hospital for my operation, St. Luke's. I hope I'm okay for school Monday. I'll be back in bandages again, I guess. We went down to choose my ring Saturday. John had been down earlier to see the doctor. His heart is still the same. He goes for a checkup every spring. The doctor told him to live a moderate life. Then he went to the lawyer to file the petition for a suit for damages to the car. We've no idea how that will turn out. Then he went to the jeweler, and then I went to decide on the one out of the few he'd picked. I finally decided on the setting of one and stone of another, so they're having it set for me. I think it's very nice. It's quite a high setting, though, and I think you've mentioned that that's awkward, but I like it. The jeweler's Beatty's was very nice. They have a good reputation. All perfect diamonds. They took us into a little room and a table by ourselves while he brought them out. It should be ready by Thursday. The wedding band is just a plain platinum band. John's ring is gold, sort of like that. I may look at some other bands for me, though. At the time, I thought I'd like a plain one. Then we went to the wedding out at Oberlin. Mary just looked lovely. She's so pretty anyway. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and, well, just lovely. She had a dress with eyelet organdy top and full skirt and eyelet cap and veil. They were married in the college chapel, and the reception was at Goodrich House. Delicious canopies and hors d'oeuvres on an empty stomach. It was illumination night on the campus. Just thousands of lanterns lit and strung around the park. So beautiful. And the band played on. It reminded me of the exhibition, only different. Daddy playing. Well, we tried to set a date that wouldn't conflict with anyone or anything. Since I'm having the operation, we'll have to wait until I'm healed, which leads us into July. John's boss has the last 2 weeks, so John can't leave then, and the first 2 would be too soon to plan anything for my face, I expect, which leads us to August. Bud might not be back by the 5th, and both the 5th and 12th are inconvenient for Wayne, Duff, and John's parents, although they could make it if we asked. We decided to wait until the 19th of August. Now, is that okay? It'll only leave us a week when we get back before I begin school again, so it's too bad, but I think it's the best we can do. After we talked about it, I was so worked up I couldn't sleep, and planned 3 weddings before I fell asleep at 3:30 Saturday night. Since I got up at 7:30 for communion, it was a little wearing. John said to leave the planning till the daytime. I had nice letters from Ethel and Chris suggesting you come down, or I go up to Chris's to rest. Would you rather come down and we get married here at St. Albans? I hope you say something soon so I know to scoop. Well, I fixed my kiddies' Sunday school books after communion, and John and I went back to the 11 o'clock service. I was so surprised. After they gave out the kiddies' awards, they gave the teacher awards too, and we had to go up in church. They gave me a nice book of the scriptures. We went out to Oberlin in the afternoon for a picnic at the quarry with Ann and Wayne Duff and a few others. John's cousin was there, and so sorry we won't get out to the lake in Michigan. Dale and Dan still want us to buy their furniture, $1,500, and rent their apartment. I'll have to start looking soon. It's so lovely in Ohio and out at the lake. John was a Boy Scout master, so knows all the names of the birds from their calls, and flowers and leaves. Very interesting, but I can't remember myself. How are Bud's plans? John's brother is out of the university for the summer and has a job in Sequoia Park in California. Both our brothers are in California. I love you. Write soon. Love, Ruthie. To be continued. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Good luck to you with your efforts in family history if this interests you, finding, preserving, and sharing old letters, diaries, and photographs, and interviewing elderly relatives while they're alive. You might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. You also might consider checking out our podcast, Adventures in History, available on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, and Radio Public. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time.